Amber Siegel with Hell Any Beginnings. I am a certified mental health and sobriety coach, and I'm doing something a little different today. I asked Josh, my buddy here, to be on a video, and today we're going to talk about emotionally unavailable men, or just emotions with men and women. We're going to talk about codependency, what that is. A lot of us have no idea. I didn't. Did you know?
No.
What codependency was? A lot of us think, well, I'm not dependent on anyone, but it's a lot more layers. And so I asked Josh to come on here, being a man. You're a man, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Being a man
and
all the things that he has went through and what he sees, and then what I see in my coaching. So I'm going to let him introduce himself and tell y'all a little bit about what Josh does.
Okay. So my name's Josh, and basically I run a Celebrate Recovery down here in Greendale, Indiana. Addictions counselor or coach, former addict. So I've been doing this walk for about 8 years now. Really went through the ringer as far as what not to do. And, Codependency is a great title because there's so much with codependence that I didn't understand. I didn't even know what it was. It's just a big word to me that I didn't understand. So now, having walked this walk and learned the correct ways to be not just emotional, but also be the man, because those things don't really go hand in hand.
Right.
Emotions and men, it just doesn't feel like it works.
No.
So yes, I definitely jumped at the opportunity to be able to do this and give some guys some wisdom on it's okay to have feelings. Like, we're going to have feelings regardless if we acknowledge them or not. We just we need to learn how to deal with them healthily.
Yeah.
Not only does that make a better us, it also makes a better husband, a better spouse, or a husband or a father, brother, son, all those things, and even friends. So if you're not healthy and you don't know how to deal with your emotions or your feelings, you can truly be a toxic person, So I just wanted to come on here and say it's okay to have these things, and then also dig into some codependence a little bit with Amber here.
So I see a lot. So I work with males and females. Josh mostly works with males, but I see both, males and females that do not know how to express their emotions, completely shut down. But I want to say it's more men. It breaks my heart. You have the same emotions as me, right? As women.
Yeah.
Do you feel pain? Yes. Do you feel pain? Do you feel anxiety? Are you stressed?
Sometimes, yes.
Yeah. And so, as a society, and it goes way back. We were talking a little bit before our recording about World War II and how the men went away and came back and completely shut down, and it went through a generational curse, really, right? To where no men don't know how to even know what they're feeling. And so I'm seeing this a lot in my coaching, to not just mental health, but also sobriety, because we tend, if we don't know how to address our emotions, what do we usually turn to?
For me, I turn to drugs and alcohol.
Yeah.
Or other women. There was a lot of things that I turned to because I didn't know how to handle my feelings,
Right.
Right. And, so what is codependence, really, because I still have trouble defining what codependence is. I know the signs, I know how to help with the signs, but I don't actually know what it means. So
let me read, I'm going to read this long definition because it's layers. So codependency is a learned pattern of behavior where a person becomes excessively reliant on or heavily involved in someone else, especially someone struggling with addiction, emotional instability, or dysfunction.
Okay.
They often feel responsible for others' emotions, needs, and outcomes. Their sense of worth becomes entangled in being needed, being helpful, or being in control. So basically, you die to yourself and you are trying your hardest to fix someone, or walking on eggshells. You hear that a lot. Walking on eggshells of their emotions, and then you're always worried about what they're doing.
Guys like to fix things. We're really good at it. I used to love to try to fix other people. I wasn't so good at fixing myself, but I could fix anybody else, because this is what you got to do. Just stop doing this, or just do this, or why ain't you doing this? And so actually it was a form of control, because I was out there trying to always take on other people's burdens and yet never be able to look at my own actions and reactions.
Don't we all kind of do that, though?
I think
Isn't
so.
it easy for us to point our fingers
Well,
and you don't even have to struggle with addiction.
Mm-hmm.
We like to point our fingers, well, they're doing this, but we cannot look within.
So you bring up a good point, because you're right. It is hard to be able to do that. It's real easy for me to be able to look at you and say, well, Amber, she's got some issues. But
I still don't.
yeah, but you can say the same thing about me, like Josh, man, he has some issues.
Yeah.
And then it's real easy to point back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. But here's what it takes for me to be able to look at me. I got to be okay with talking, with expressing, and with actually communicating with somebody else I trust.
So as a man, that's where we can go into the emotions and how society, or how you were almost just trained. You were saying, we were talking a little bit before, that you just we just go into our roles. You're not born like this.
No.
You're not born no emotions or completely shut down.
I was a happy kid.
But somewhere along the line, you were taught to, as a man, you don't cry. Don't feel your emotions. Don't talk about it.
Don't talk about it, God forbid.
Yeah, don't talk about
Don't
it. Yeah, or even to know what that emotion is, and what can you explain that? As a man.
There's some big, strong dudes out here. Like, I don't know if you've ever been to less space.
You're saying you're not strong.
I'm just saying, Arnold Schwarzenegger used to be a really big dude, and he still kind of is. And you're growing up looking at Rocky Balboa. You're growing up, even for me, looking at my dad and my grandpa and all these strong men. We're kind of taught, don't talk about your stuff. Keep it in, bottle it up, be a man, don't cry, shake it off.
Yeah.
Put some dirt on it, and it's just like, all right, well, I did that, and I had nobody to share anything with, and then so when I started feeling things and going through things, nobody was supposed to know, because they're my issues. I'm the man. I'm supposed to be able to handle everything by myself.
Where did that get you?
It led to a lot of brokenness.
Yeah.
It led to a lot of pain and suffering, internal struggle. Here I am praying, being godly, trying to pray and lean on Jesus, and people would tell me to read the Bible or go to church, and I would do all that, and it was still there.
Yeah.
So how did that manifest into this life? I couldn't cope with it. I didn't know how to cope with the pain that had happened to me and the things I was feeling. So, you do like any other kid, most kids would do. You start drinking. You start going to drugs. You start being the outcast, because I had a lot of things happen to me as a child. And I had a lot of things that were going on through the teenage years that weren't right. And I had nobody to talk to it about. Because even if I did have somebody, I wasn't going to let anybody in, because that was weakness. And it was uncomfortable, and it was not what everybody shows you to do.
Weakness. I want you to touch on that, because that is really ingrained into men and our society. Is you are weak if you share.
I don't know. It's weird, right?
It is kind of, because where did that come from?
I don't know.
Because you're not weak at all.
No.
And so
You're a person. You're a human being.
With all the same emotions as women. But hey, there are women out here I know that are listening, or that that it's not just men that are emotionally suppressed. Women can be emotionally suppressed too, and a lot of it is how they were raised in trauma as well. So it's not just all men. So women can be this, but the whole weakness. So they were even taught as women that's weak as well. To
need somebody else.
To need someone. And that is, oh my gosh, that is what we were, it talks about in the Bible, that is what we were designed to do, is to need someone to a certain level of healthiness.
For sure.
Not the codependency. Not
the codependency.
Yeah, but
we're not trying to fix one another.
No.
We're just trying to be there for one another.
But yeah, that weakness. Where did that come from, and what does it do to you? So you said a little bit that you relied on other things. You relied on alcohol. And you don't have to. I hope you all know that You don't have to have this major addiction.
No.
There's so many people.
Yeah,
there are so many people that are using alcohol or other substance or behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about other behaviors, gambling, pornography. There's this spectrum where addiction falls all the way over, but you can still be using something to cope with your emotions and not be on the full side of physically dependent or addicted.
Yeah. But codependency comes from, for me, even though I wanted to be around others, I couldn't actually let anybody know who I was or what was going on. So I always wanted to try to people please, to make others like me or things like that, where I'm doing things even though I shouldn't, because I'm trying to get somebody to like me as a friend or just a girlfriend, whatever it is. Like I'm trying to put on a persona of being somebody else to gain whatever I was looking for, and that's kind of a case of mild codependency, with the people pleasing. And then, but I took it to a whole different level of codependency. Here I am, committing myself, like you said, dying to yourself to be whatever it is that somebody needed me to be, out of the fear of rejection, the fear itself of just being alone, or the fear of not being good enough, and there I am breaking my boundaries and breaking my morals to try to be whatever somebody else wanted me to be.
Yeah. Yeah, and so your self-worth is tied to someone else.
Yeah, do they approve or not?
Yeah.
And I let that affect my mentality and my spirituality as well as my emotionality.
Yeah.
And codependency really does come on all sides of the spectrum as far as the way we do things.
I feel like it should be named something different. I really want to come up with a different name. I know. We need to come up with a different name. Y'all know a different name as we're talking through this, and if you're learning about codependency, I have been trying to come up with a different name because it is very misleading.
It is. It doesn't really describe anything about what it is. And it's so much that it's a huge word. So, think about this. Have you ever not went somewhere because your girlfriend or your spouse or for you would obviously be your husband or your boyfriend, didn't go? Have you ever not did anything because they weren't going with you, or it just held you back from wanting to leave the house or leave? There's things like that are also with codependency, where you're dependent on somebody else to do something or make you feel a certain way, like happiness, joy. Maybe you rely on them because it's super toxic and you want to just feel angry all the time. And I know for men, anger is a huge one.
Yeah.
Because it's real easy to act instead of speak.
Yeah, anger. So even when it comes to depression, but anger is the big emotion, and one of the first emotions with a man, that if they are upset, sad, all the other emotions, anger comes out first.
Of course, it comes right out.
Anger comes out first, but you could be really sad, but you're yelling, you're screaming. Yeah.
Well, so we talked about bottling emotions, which men do, and I get it. I'm still a man. I still do it. But I've learned a way not to. We'll talk about that in the second part. But the emotions are bottled, correct? So when something happens that triggers a reaction from me, instantly, I'm not going to talk to you about it. I'm going to spill out of what's inside of me. And what's inside of me was anger and violence. So whenever I got, confronted about something, or got caught lying, or got, in trouble about something, the first thing that would instantly trigger a response was anger, and it's coming out, and that was because I was super unhealthy inside. I had so many bottled up feelings, emotions, problems, that it would always just come out in anger, which, let's face it, some people, unfortunately, they like to get yelled at, and that could be that's a very toxic relationship. You know what I mean? Where they're dependent, they're trying to get your approval, and really you're just mad all the time at yourself, and then it's just a vicious cycle that starts taking place, and it turns into abusive relationships.
Bottling everything up, what does it do? Remember we talked a little bit about disease and just everything, but what does it do to you when you bottle all that up, instead of not just exploding, but you feel it in your body?
Yeah, you're a miserable person. You're sick. you're sick, you're always riddled with some kind of anxiety, depression, and that stuff just makes you feel down about yourself, who you are. And then for me, I was always angry, so I was just always had high blood pressure, and
this was the disease.
there was a lot of that stuff, and then I was always worn down, like I was always exhausted, but my anger would fuel me to keep going. So I used it as a form of energy, to be quite honest, because I was just always constantly mad at the world. And I didn't know why.
Yeah.
Because I was doing what I was supposed to do. And everybody showed me that you don't talk. So I never actually knew about communicating to somebody in a safe environment, or somebody that was willing to just hear me out. I never knew that was even an option. Like I felt so weak the first time I talked honestly about some of my battles that I was undergoing, drugs at that time, I was going through addiction. I was an alcoholic. I was, gambling big time. I was just a miserable person. Like she said, it was vanilla once, but then it went down the dark.
I teach the classes at the juvenile detention center. And I do talk about addiction, even pornography addiction, because it is so prevalent right now. But one of the things I said was, starts vanilla, and of course these young kids they're like, what's vanilla?
Yeah, what's vanilla?
So I had to tell them, like, yeah, I know I'm old, I'm 43, I'm old. But I had to say, vanilla is, just your basic stuff. And then what happens is you get that dopamine, you want to hit, you want another hit, you want another, and then all of a sudden it's...
Keeps going.
It keeps going, yeah. And we start... And this isn't just this pure addiction. We see it so much. We do.
One more. I would like to do one more example of codependence. Yeah. Like all my buddies, we all drank. We all went to the bar together. We all went to concerts together. We all did everything together. But the whole goal was to drink. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
So that was my level of codependence, surrounding myself with others that do the same thing. And trust me when I say they all felt the same way. They're all bottled. Nobody talked about these issues. Like, that was not what we were doing. We were making fun of each other for these issues and laughing about it out of passive aggressiveness or sarcasm or just being an idiot, But
there's always a little truth to that, right?
Oh yeah, there's always, like, you ever said something drunk that you didn't mean, but really deep down you kind of did. It just kind of happens, and that stuff just elevates everything to another level. But anyway, what I'm saying is, like, I was super codependent about who I hung out with too, because if I was hanging out with people that weren't drinking, something's wrong with me. If I was hanging out with people that was doing drugs, I couldn't let them know I was doing drugs. So now I'm the outcast again, so I had to surround myself around people that were doing the same thing, and that enabled my codependence even more, because now I relied on those people to provide the exit to where I'm okay to just be me.
Yeah.
Even though I was super flawed.
If you are struggling with codependency, know that you are not your authentic self.
No.
And when you are not your authentic self, all of these issues start pouring out. You can never be the person that God made you to be and healthy. The
first time I confessed what was going on inside of me, man, it was like this huge weight. I call it step 4 now, or step 5, the way, whatever you want to call it, but inventory, where you write down everything and you tell somebody all this stuff that you've done or that you went through or that happened to you.
A safe person. You said that. You said that there are safe people out there.
Yeah.
You have to find, because you did say that just a minute ago.
Yep.
You said when you were able to find that safe person.
Yeah, not just my old buddies.
No, but it could be a friend, it could be a mentor, it could be a counselor, it could be a coach, it could be a family member, someone that you feel safe enough with.
Somebody that genuinely cares and ain't gonna spread your stuff all over the news, But that's the point. I found a healthy person, And then when I was able to be okay with not being okay with them for the first time and just letting all this trash out over 30 years or 40 years, and it was just like the bags were emptied. I had obtained a peace inside of me for the first time in my life. I was able to understand I do have emotions and feelings, and I just didn't know how to process them or, speak about them. Was I mad? It took me a long time to say I'm angry.
What is this? Is this anger? Is
Yeah.
this sadness? Is this jealousy? Is this,
You would think
what
it would
is
make
this?
sense, but it just don't make sense until you actually, for me, I verbalize it. And I'm like, man, I was angry all those years. And then I was feeling rejection all those years, you know, and I was depressed all those years. And then, you know, once I started realizing this stuff, it was just freedom. Just I was able to be myself for the first time in forever. Not feel weak, but feel strength.
Gosh, isn't that awesome?
Oh, man, I feel, you know, I feel so strong on the inside that I love who I am today. I got character defects and flaws and all that stuff, but I love me genuinely for who I am today. And to hear me say that, you know, 15 years ago was never going to happen. I hated myself.
Right, and how many of you listening that deep down, you might not say it, like
Yeah.
you're not,
No, I'm not
you're
gonna
not
say
gonna
it
say it, you wouldn't say that,
Yeah.
but really truly can say, man, I really love the person I am or I am becoming, right? Because we're always on a continuum. But to say that, and I can say that too, because I couldn't before either.
Yeah.
Honestly, we hear, if we did say that, we got a big head, and that's not really true.
Yeah.
But that's not true.
Yeah.
There's a difference between having, a big head versus
being prideful.
Yeah, that's different than actually saying, because we are called,
or a fake ego.
Yeah, we're called to love ourselves and take care of ourselves because we are the temple.
Yeah.
I wanted to, before we close out, I wanted to talk a little bit about what it does to your spouse or your significant other. And so a lot of you could be like, why does it matter? I can bottle up my emotions. Why is it that big of a deal? I'm only hurting myself.
Yeah.
That's not true. That is not true. And so I see this time and time again, and I personally have been through this myself, on what it feels like to have someone not be able to express their emotions or be able to bond with them to the degree that you're supposed to. And it really, it's a trickle. It affects the spouse, it affects the children, it affects you, but it also affects all of us. And the other person, the spouse or significant other, is walking on eggshells trying to figure things out, and we don't know because we're not mind readers.
So you're talking about them being emotionally shut down.
Yeah.
They're just not there.
And there's I always say the spectrum. I have to say a spectrum because there's a spectrum with everything, with addiction, with codependency, with an emotional, unavailable person, there's a spectrum. Not everybody.
There's like a gauge where it's empty or full.
Yeah, and so
and anywhere in between.
But there are some that are completely all the way on the other end, and it really does affect the spouse and significant other because that person winds up getting anxious or know what to do, or they're constantly chasing or for validation, and not in the, it can be unhealthy, but that's not what I'm talking about. You're not getting anything from them. You don't know.
Yeah, it's just being in a relationship with one side. Yeah, just because the other person's actually not available to discuss anything or be there emotionally, and it's one-sided all the time, and it's very lonely. To be honest, it's a lonely relationship type, whether you're married or in whatever relationship. If the other person's shut down emotionally or you're shut down emotionally, as a man, that does lead to a lot of issues, because usually that's when things happen because the other person is just not there whatsoever. So we were talking, that little bit of intimacy you get isn't there. That little bit of,
And we're not just talking about
we're not talking
what people
about,
think. Like we're talking about
sex. There's lots and lots. Sex can be super mechanical. There can be nothing involved. People make livings off of that still today by doing that. But we're talking about the actual intimacy with your spouse or your significant other, where if you guys have no connection, how can you connect? If you're not able to open up and talk realistically with one another about real things that are going on inside of you on a healthy level, how are you guys going to ever maintain any kind of health in your relationship? Like
you can't. It's impossible. You have to open up.
So there's a pattern. You have to do the right things in order to get the right things back. If one of them's just sitting there shutting down, not being available, like me, I used to go straight into the house, not say hi, not say bye. I would just go to my back room and just wallow in my sorrow and my drug use and my alcohol, all that stuff. And how do you think she felt about that?
Oh,
I mean, alone.
Yeah.
Alone. Yeah. She was alone. And that's not a good way to be in a relationship. So it's tragic what codependency causes, because here she is. She should have had the right state of mind to leave me a long time ago. I wouldn't want to tolerate a relationship like that. You know what I mean? I wouldn't want her now to go through what I put her through back then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I wanted to make sure that we know that, we touched on that, because it doesn't just affect you personally. It is a trickle down. And honestly, that is one of the major reasons why I see this a lot in my line of work. Not just line of work, Josh, but I see this just in casual conversations, because I talk to everyone, but casual conversations, and my heart breaks, because it doesn't have to be this way.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be this way. And like I said, men can talk, but women too can be just as shut down. Mm-hmm. So you have to be able to find that person, find that support. And there's so much support out there. It's just knowing that you're not weak if you ask.
Now, it feels weak, but it's not. It leads to Superman strength. It's crazy.
And we're not just saying this to be.
No, it's just it's not a lie. It's the truth. When you feel weak, you really are strong. And it's scriptural because God gives us the strength. And but until we try, how are we supposed to know? I've tried to share things with men that were not safe places, like not healthy whatsoever. My buddies from the old days, and it was always used against me. It was always to belittle me or make me feel less than, or, and we're not talking big things. We're just talking little things like, man, my wife upset me today, or, and it just turned into an unhealthy conversation. It was just.
Yeah, so you want to make sure that the people that you talk to are healthy. You're not going to go to the local pub where everybody's half-cropped and try to, and then ask the person that, and they have a terrible marriage.
Yeah.
What are they going to say? Well, keep coming out with me. They're going to want you to keep coming out. Yeah. Let's just have a beer. And I'm not saying that everybody has a beer.
But it happens. It's just they start justifying.
They're not talking about what you need to talk about. They're actually covering it up. So we want to do a 2-part series. It was on my heart. I've been wanting to do this. I've been hearing about this, like I said, in my coaching. I've talked to Josh about it, and he's seeing this a lot. He's working with a lot of men that their significant other, the men that you talk to, they're not emotionally available. The women, so
both sides.
Yeah, it's both sides.
So
we're seeing a lot of this, and I wanted to mention too when I said about your authentic self. There's so many people that I ask this question. I ask this question a lot. When I teach or whatever. Do you know who you are?
It's a good question.
Like, who are you?
I know who I am.
Who are you?
But do you? Yeah.
Do you know hardly anybody?
A select few.
Yeah, and
I stand up for themselves in the face of adversity.
Yeah.
Whether somebody's trying to get them to do something they don't want to do or feel comfortable with, very few have the strength that it takes to be your true authentic self with others.
Yeah. And I think when we're in codependency, when we are suppressing our emotions, when we're doing all that, we don't know who we are.
We ain't got the strength. So we went over a pretty broad spectrum of examples of codependency. We went over a lot of what not to do, correct?
And then the emotions.
All the toxic stuff. So part 2, I guess, will be the remedy, the cure. Like, how do we combat this? How do we overcome this? How do we start to take action against the toxicity of codependence?
Yep. Hope you all enjoyed this. Yeah.
I like action, because now we actually get a tool to be able to do something. So yeah. Yeah,
so I hope you learned something today, and then stay tuned for our next video about how we can put all this together. And like you said, I like action too. I think that's why we're coaches.
We finally get some power.
Yeah, we like action. All right, I hope everybody has a great day.